Welcome to my channel. This is JC Recommender Reviews. My name is John, and today I'm going to be starting a new format for my new release reviews. So I want to make my videos a little more interesting, so I'm going to be doing my reviews in 3 stages. Hopefully keep the videos around like a 6, 7, or 8 minute length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a brief introduction to the band at first. Then I'll go over a few key tracks. Instead of going track by track, I'm just going to pick maybe 4 or 5, talk about them. And then after that, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to mention a few classic albums. These are albums that if you like the albums I show you, then you'll definitely like Locked and Loaded, which is the album I'm reviewing today. With that being said, let me just get right into it. So Voodoo Circle, it's a German hard rock or metal band. It was formed by Alex Bayroth, and he's the guitarist for bands like Silent Force or Primal Fear. So the influence are Whitesnake, Yngwie Malmsteen, Deep Purple, and Rainbow. Probably the more heavier influence is Whitesnake and a little Deep Purple. But the band consists of Matt Sinner on bass, David Ridman on vocals, Marcus Kuhlman on drums. So they released their self-titled album in 2008. They had moderate success with Broken Heart Syndrome. That was released in 2011. Then they released another 3 albums. So Locked and Loaded is their 6th studio album. So after listening to this album, my immediate reaction was the band sounds a lot like the band Whitesnake. You know, probably more from their late 80s period. The vocalist sounds a lot like David Coverdale. Now, for some people, you might think, oh, I don't like that. They're a rip-off band. I don't want anything to do with that. Or you could be like, hey, I like Whitesnake. I like that type of music. So, maybe if I like Whitesnake, I like this. So it kind of depends on what your opinion are. Depends on what your opinion is of bands that sound a lot like other bands. Because this band does sound a lot like Whitesnake. I'll just get that out there right now. So let's see, the album opens up. It's a fast-paced rocker. It's called Flesh and Bone. It's a heavy song. The guitars sound great. The keyboards in the background add a nice flavor. It's a straightforward rocker, so I like that one. Wasting Time, that's a slower track. It starts out with some pretty cool effects. Some nice bass work. You hear heavy Deep Purple or Whitesnake influence on this song. The chorus, it's super catchy, it's memorable. And for me, probably one of the best tracks on the album. So Locked and Loaded, that one reminds me more of an 80s hair metal track. I like the sound on the bass, the verse section. This album, in general, has a nice production value. It has a really good sound to it. Next, Devil's Cross. That's another good song. It's very atmospheric. I like the tone. It reminds me of an intro to an 80s horror movie. Pretty cool. It's a slow rocker. Has a really nice bass tone. This one in the vocals you hear a really big David Coverdale influence. The song is a little darker, maybe late 80s Black Sabbath influence going on here. And the last song I'm going to mention is called This Song Is For You. It's a soft melodic ballad. Now the intro solo reminds me of a lot of the early Carlos Santana, that guitar tone. I like that a lot. But the song in general is reminiscent of early 70s Deep Purple. So I'm thinking of a song either Mistreated or a song like that. It's a good song, it's slow, it's bluesy, keyboard heavy, and a good song overall. Okay, I'm going to mention a few classic albums from a few other bands. So if you like the albums that I'm going to show you, you will probably like Voodoo Circle. So the first one is Burn by Deep Purple. This is such an awesome album. One of my top 5 Deep Purple albums of all time. This is where David Coverdale makes an appearance. He was pretty much unknown at that time. But I can tell you this album was really a big influence for this Voodoo Circle album. Tracks like Sail Away or Mistreated. Those are probably two songs that kind of feel were an influence on the songwriting for Locked and Loaded. I mean, Burn, what an awesome Deep Purple album. I can't really say anything bad about it. It's such a great album. And the second album I'm going to mention is the Whitesnake, self-titled, or I think it was called 1987 in Europe. Now this was a big album of my teen years. It has that like big 80s sound. It's a hair metal album, but it still has that like Whitesnake sound. A lot of the songs on Locked and Loaded were, I hear a lot of that like 80s like hair metal sound on Locked and Loaded. So if you think of songs like Here I Go Again or Still the Night, those like big 80s hair metal, like pop music, pop metal, or whatever you want to call it, that's what we're getting on Locked and Loaded. And the third album we're going to recommend is Coverdale Page. This one came out, I think, in 1993. Some of the bluesy guitar playing by Jimmy Page can be heard on Locked and Loaded. So a few tracks to mention are tracks like Waiting on You and Feeling Hot, some of the harder rockers from this album. Now you're going to notice that all the albums I mentioned feature David Coverdale on vocals, because this vocalist, he just sounds a lot like David Coverdale. So if you like David Coverdale, you would like this album, Locked and Loaded. Okay, I'm going to give this album a final score. So my final score is going to be an 8 out of 10. I'm feeling that's fairly generous because the sound is very derivative, but it's a good time. I enjoyed it. I like the album. I like Deep Purple. I like Whitesnake. I like Rainbow. All those bands. So the album is very entertaining as a whole. And that's it. Hope you liked it. So comment below. Let me know what do you think of Locked and Loaded. Have you listened to their other albums? How do the other albums stand up to this one? And as always, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I'm gonna recommend some other of my old videos, put them over there, and they'll probably appear at this point. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe, all that, and I will see you soon.